started. So I'm Pat Soldano, President of Family Enterprise USA. Family Enterprise USA is a 501c not-for-profit organization. Its sole purpose is to promote generationally owned family businesses and their lifetime savings. We are so pleased to help the Congress form the Congressional Family Business Caucus. We are very thrilled to have four co-chairs. We have one of those co-chairs with us right now, and that's Congressman Henry Cuellar. So we'd like him to come up and say a few words about the Congressional Caucus and the family business.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Say hello to my fellow Texans, any wannabe Texans also, to all of y'all. Let me say, as you know, it's a little busy. Members are markup. I got to go back to Subcommittee on Appropriations, where it's the military construction, which is, we're talking about the quality of life. Talking about quality of life, not only for the small business owners, but also for our military active soldiers that we have. I just want to say to my, I'm hoping that the caucus chairs will stop by. It's a bipartisan way of addressing this issue. And let me just say that I'm an attorney by profession, a PhD, but I was also a small business owner, so I know what it is to be a small business owner and what you have to go, and a family-owned businesses, what they have to go. So there are different ways we can help you up here in Congress, and let me talk about one way is by passing legislation, and certainly I'll work with Jodey and the other, Brad and the other folks to make sure that we work with you on legislation and be supportive of that. But the other thing is, there are certain things, as you know, I sit on the appropriations, money drives policy. So if there's anything we can do there, please let us know. In the appropriations bill, we're not supposed to, quote, legislate, but it happens all the time, especially at the very end. So anything I can try to help you in my committee, and certainly I'll work with Jodey, I'll work with Brad and the other folks to make sure that we are supportive of that. I am looking forward to, once y'all put your survey results, you all have them, you can send them over to Matt in my office here. We'd be happy to look at that. I know that I've talked to some of y'all. I haven't been to your company in Dallas, but I need to show up there again. But I certainly want to be very supportive. I'm very, very pro-business. Do understand, as I mentioned, as a former small business owner, I know what y'all go through and what needs to be done for family-owned businesses on that. So with that, I know y'all have other things and I have to go to my subcommittee, but I will take one or two easy questions. Jack over there will take all the tough questions. Jack will take all the hard questions. I'll take any quick questions. Hopefully not from the border. I've been talking about border for a while. By the way, can I talk about quality of life? The border is actually safer than Washington, D.C. If you look at the stats for rape, murder, assault, the national crime rate, for example, and you compare it, people ask me, I'm from Laredo, Texas, on the border. I cover from San Antonio down to the border. They always ask me, what's the most dangerous thing about the border? I say, actually what it is when I leave Laredo and I fly up to DC. I'm not talking about the politics, I'm talking about the crime rate. Actually, it's a little bit more dangerous. So I always say, I always give the Chamber of Commerce speech about border life. Jack, and then over here.
Henry, I just want to say, number one, thank you for being a co-chair of this group, and also thank you for your bipartisan openness, and your office is always great about listening to groups and telling you yes or telling you no, but being straightforward. You're a rarity in Washington. We really appreciate it. But I have to ask this as a fellow appropriator. Maybe mention how appropriation bills always pass, that sometimes governments get in problems, but if the appropriations bill doesn't pass, the government closes down. And so even though this group is primarily interested in a Ways and Means tax bill, your bill is the one that gets done. And maybe just... And
one of the former Cardinals, chairman, Jack, a lot of experience on the appropriations, and we appreciate everything you did where you were a member of the appropriations. Look, there are certain trains that will get started, but there are certain trains that have to get to the end. And the appropriations is one of them. You know, when I used to be in the state legislature, we would always joke around that there would be about 5,000 pieces of legislation that would be passed. This is just a state example. 1,000 that would pass out of the 5,000, but the most important one was the appropriations. Over there, we knew that the appropriation was the most important one, and then everything else was poetry. Here in Washington, it's the reverse. It actually is the reverse. We know we got to do it. When was the last time we actually passed all bills on September 30th? As you know, our fiscal year starts October 1st and ends on September 30th. But as you know, the habit of what we've done lately is wait till the end of the year so we can get pressure, and it's usually done right before Christmas on that. But what was the last time? It's been years since that happened.
Probably 2000.
Yeah, it's been a long time, so it's unfortunate. But as I mentioned, the appropriations, and Jack knows this, in the old days, it was how much money you added, how much money you take, balance everything out. But the appropriations has now become the train that has to pass. And at the end, didn't happen this time, but tax extenders have been added. I was talking to the Texas Association of Businesses just right before this, and I was telling them that you remember Joe Barton and myself from Texas, Dallas area. We took the lead on lifting the ban on oil exports. We passed it from the House, and I told Joe, hey, because they're running into a few obstacles in the Senate, this will be added to the appropriations bill. He said, oh, no, this is legislation. September, I still remember this, December 15, 2015, the ban to lift oil exports was added to the omnibus appropriations bill, and it passed. And we're actually seeing some of that right now. If you look at what's happening in Ukraine and Western Europe, Eastern Europe, they used to depend a lot on the Russians, on oil. Now, we're providing a lot of that, so that's good for our geopolitics, but it's also good for jobs, and being a little bit more independent. So, as Jack said, the appropriations is one of those bills that has to pass. There's 12 of them, but it's usually combined in one that has to pass, and sometimes you will see legislation that's added at the very end. Yes, ma'am.
Prior to getting involved with Family Enterprise USA and graciously agreeing to co-chair it, what has been a source of family business education for you leading up to now?
Well, as I mentioned, I used to be involved in the international trade. So I was a small business owner back in Laredo. So I know what it is to pay taxes, what to deal with overhead, what to deal with too many rules and regulations. So that type of experience has helped me a lot when I was in the state legislature, and certainly when I was Secretary of State. Also, because we're the filing of the corporations and everything in the state of Texas comes through the Secretary of State, of course, here in Congress. So that type of experience has been extremely helpful. I always find it interesting, sometimes the people that don't understand are the ones that come up with the most interesting ideas, or the ones that don't listen to groups like y'all. Or I also ask you, it's important to come to DC. It's very important. But it's also very important that you also do the show and tell in your district. If you have a company, invite your member, or everybody has one member and at least 2 senators. So just invite them. When we're not so busy, say, hey, just come over and see how we deal with this. I remember one time, as an example, a banker in Laredo took me on a Saturday and said, hey, why don't you come over, I just need a few minutes of your time. Let me show you the regulations banks, small community banks have to deal with. It was amazing. I mean, they went over and over and over, and it was just beyond me. That few minutes turned into about an hour and a half because I wanted to see everything on that. So the show and tell in the district is very important. Coming up here, spending time with a member, and you got a great person like Jack knows everybody. Jack has been here. He knows, it's not only the member, but it's also the staff. We depend a lot on staff. So don't blow off the staff completely. spend time with them on that.
Thank you.
All right. With that, thank you so much, and let us know if Matt in my office can always be of assistance to you if I'm not around.
Just really quickly, I want to just say thank you to Matt and also to Jake. You have a great member, but a great member, as he said, has great staff. So just wanted to give a shout out to them because they've been wonderful in helping get this all together.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, the staff plays a very important role in so many ways, and so again, pay attention to us, but I say pay more attention to them. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, everyone, for being here. Tommy Brown, I'm the Congressman's Legislative Director and most of his economic policy, especially anything in front of the Ways and Means Committee. First, he does apologize for not being here. Family businesses are an incredibly important issue to him. Before he came to Congress, a lot of the work that he did in the private sector was consulting with multi-generational family businesses. He understands the challenges and opportunities that you all see every single day in your work. And so he's very excited to be here as an advocate on the Ways and Means Committee in the House generally on the work that you guys are doing. I think we're really excited about the work that this caucus is in a position to do. I think a lot of that will be informed by the experiences and perspectives that you guys will bring to the caucus. I think we're incredibly well informed by the experience you guys bring to this conversation. But also the Congressman has a long history and a long experience himself of working with family businesses. We're very excited, obviously, the Ways and Means Committee in dealing with tax policy has an incredibly important role in a lot of the challenges and opportunities that you all face. But obviously being a voice more broadly in the House for family businesses is definitely going to be an opportunity this caucus will present. And so we look forward to working together. And again, apologize that the markup has scrambled the schedule today, but we appreciate everyone's flexibility and certainly be in touch. I think given the inauguration of this caucus, I think there's a lot of great ways we can creatively advocate for family businesses throughout the legislative process by holding events like this, through the appropriations process, as Congressman Cuellar alluded to, but also through the various legislative cycles that we see year in and year out. So very much looking forward to working together. Please be in touch as we can be a resource in the context of the caucus, but also more broadly. And I would just want to send along Congressman Schneider's excitement for moving forward on this. And really thank you for all your great work. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for all of you. Very exciting. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate you all attending and supporting. As a member and owner of a family business that's been in business since 1946, I think it's about time we started this caucus, and I want to say thank you to everyone who's been instrumental in doing this. It's a challenging time now for family businesses with what's happening, particularly in my home state of New York. And I see a couple of New Yorkers. I see Steve down there, who runs a larger family business, but nonetheless, all the same issues apply. And in New York, where I just got into a discussion with Congressman Darrell Issa about who has the higher taxes, California or New York. Not a good argument to have when you're looking at business friendliness. But we are just delighted that you're going to be participating. I got an exciting retweet on one of my tweets from former Congressman Speaker Boehner, so that was he's on board fully. And we just hope that you can continue to give us the feedback that we need on the caucus, how we help family businesses, how we help grow our family businesses, entrepreneurship, which is really important, particularly in upstate New York, where we were really the beginning of so much, you know, with the Industrial Revolution. My new district, New York 24, actually starts north of Clayton on Lake Ontario, circles all the way around Lake Ontario to Lockport, another end of the Erie Canal. And I have the Finger Lakes and everything in between except Rochester, which is where we had Kodak, Bausch & Lomb, Xerox. All these great companies were started and no longer have a big presence in New York. And I think we've got a lot of challenges. How do we bring the businesses back? How do we have a business-friendly environment, particularly in states like New York and California and Illinois? And we appreciate your input on how we can grow our businesses. And we do have a few small highlights in New York. We do, hopefully we'll have Micron will come and reinvest in New York and bring us a lot of jobs, but most importantly our supply chain and the critically important semiconductors and microchips that they produce to give us the competitiveness we need against China, to give us a firewall with what could be potentially a problem with Taiwan in the future because of China's influence. So We're grateful to all of you. Unfortunately, I've got to go back and vote in Ways and Means Committee, but really excited about you all. And thank you again, and please always reach out to our office if you need any help, questions, bills advance, and of course in Ways and Means, if you want a tax cut, this is the place to go with the Republicans in the majority. So thank you so much.
So I want to get through the survey results because the most important thing is to hear from the family business owners that came here today specifically to tell their story. But I just want to remind you again about this caucus. It's bipartisan and it's educational. It's not a policy caucus, right? Its purpose is to educate members of Congress, voters, and the media around what a family business is and what it isn't. I've learned that members of Congress really don't understand family business owners or family businesses. Many times they call them small businesses. And you notice with Congressman Cuellar, he said small business and then he restated family business because they're not just small, right? They're small, medium, and large. We have to remind them of that. We have to remind them that they're from all different industries. So I'm going to get started. She'll probably get here while I'm in the middle of this. That's fine. I can stop and catch up once she comes. So we do an annual survey every year with Family Enterprise USA. We've known for this. We've been doing it since 2007. Family Enterprise USA, as I mentioned, is a not-for-profit 501c3. We want to thank our platinum sponsors. The two firms that we use here in DC have stepped up as platinum sponsors, Sparkat & Boggs and the Brown Steven Law Firm. We also want to thank these family business centers that we work with around the country. There's about 40 of them that we work with that sent these surveys out. We had a great year, as well as these trade associations that's here as well, American Farm Bureau. Justin, thank you so much for sending out the surveys so your members could respond. What you may not know is family businesses really are big business. 32 million family businesses in America. 87% of the businesses in America could be defined as family businesses. They generate 83 million jobs in this country, which is 59% of the private workforce. 54% of the GDP, or $7.7 trillion. That's why you're important. That's why you need to talk to your members of Congress. That's why they want to hear from you. You really are an economic powerhouse, and this caucus hopefully will elevate family businesses in America. This year in the survey, we got 571 respondents. That's 271 more than we did last year, and we did it in half the time. So again, working with these family business centers made all the difference. We now have a great network, and I want to thank John Giuliana, who I know is here somewhere, there he is in the back room, for the great work that he has done with these family business centers. So 84% of the respondents are sole or majority owners. That's who we want to respond to these surveys. We want to hear from the people in charge day to day and the people that own the business. So 92% of them are CEOs, chairmen, presidents, senior management. This is a surprise to most people. 26% of the businesses are manufactured. So there are more manufacturers that are in today's world in the United States than there are other industries. And I've got the farming circled, not to point them out. But we are still a family farm. The country is a country of family farms. But you can see that they have declined in terms of the percent. So we don't want to forget these other industries that are just as illiquid and have the same hard assets that family farms have when we design our policies. 74% of these businesses have been in business over 30 years. 37%, 50 to 100 years. Why is that important? Because we all know family businesses plan their business as a legacy around sustainability. They really care about not only their family owners and their family members, but their employees and their community as well. 82% of them contribute either locally or to a national charity locally. This is a really important statistic that I think gets lost. When family businesses have to be sold to pay the estate tax or for whatever reason, not only does the family lose their livelihood, the employees lose their jobs, but the community loses all of that giving that is so important. 61% of them added jobs and 91% of them kept people employed. I should have mentioned that this survey was done about mid-December. John, you started about mid-December, and we closed February 1st. So we were through the pandemic, February 1st, 2023. This was at the tail end of it. But through the pandemic, 90% of family businesses kept their employees employed. Again, that's a difference. Some of them even shut their businesses, but they kept their employees employed. That's a difference between non-family and family businesses. 94% of them added jobs between 1 and 100. You can see that 88% added 1 to 50 jobs. 9% actually lost jobs, but those that lost jobs or declined the jobs were in the lower category, again, 1 to 50 jobs. I'm very excited about this question because we never ask this before. Based on all the family businesses that I work with, I suspected that many of them have generational employees. And lo and behold, 72% of them have generational employees. That means more than one generation in the family has worked for that business. Again, that just shows you how much family businesses care about their employees.
Can I ask
Yes,
a question?
absolutely.
The generational employees, does that include, you may want to split out. Do you have generational family member employees or generational non-family member employees?
We did not split that. That would be really interesting. We did not split that out. We have, I don't have it in this staff, but we have, you know, how many generations of the family work in the business. And a lot of them are second and third generation. I would say 50 to 60%. But we didn't ask this question that way. But maybe we should do so next year. But I think this again speaks to how family businesses are different, right? Because they plan their business, they run their business as a legacy. 46% of them pay above average in terms of wages and benefits. So that's important. We all know that family businesses treat their employees better than non-family businesses. 39% of them have over 21 million. So again, it's not just small business, small, medium, and large size businesses. In fact, 23% of them have over 50 million in terms of gross revenues. 71% grew their business in 2022. And 65% believe their business is going to grow in 2023. So they're optimistic. This is probably not a surprise. What is their greatest impediment going forward? Availability of labor and the cost of labor and second market conditions. Third is inflation. Now last year inflation was 4th. So we all know we've been hit by inflation very significantly. Family businesses are taking the brunt of that. And then 4th is government regulation, which continues to be a big problem for family businesses. Critical tax and economic issues. Income tax, once again, and I'm going to explain why I believe income tax is at the top of the list. Income tax was again #1, but even higher than last year. And then the estate tax went down a little bit, but it's still #2. And then payroll taxes, and then capital gains tax. And I think the Congresswoman is here, so let me show one more slide. In terms of the estate tax, I think not a surprise that what family businesses would like to see is that this exemption that is $13 million per person becomes permanent, right? It's going to expire at the end of 2025, so if you haven't done your planning, you need to be doing your planning. But interesting, 32% would still like to see repealed, even though that's probably not economically or politically viable today. And 16% would like to see the rate reduced from 40% to 20%. That's important for policy and taxation groups because through Congressman Cuellar and Congressman Arrington, a bill has been introduced that will do exactly that, reduce the rate from 40% to 20%. That's been introduced in the last 3 sessions actually of Congress, and will be introduced again. So we're optimistic about that because it has bipartisan support. In terms of the top economic priority, again, there's income tax, right? Income tax at the top of the list. And then you have the estate tax second. Simplifying the tax code is third. It's a little perplexing to me, but it just gets more and more and more complicated. And simplifying the tax code keeps going up the list every single year. So People are just suffering, I think, with the complexities of the tax code. But see what's number 4 is the deficit. Family businesses understand what debt does to a business, and so they are concerned about the deficit. And then you can see capital gains at the bottom, and trade policies actually moved up one this year. This is a really important slide because most people don't realize that family businesses operate as a pass-through. 80% of family business owners operate as a pass-through. So family businesses are paying ordinary income tax, whereas corporate America gets paid 21%, family businesses are paying 37%. So think about that. That is why income tax is at the top of their list, because they are paying this 37% versus corporate America paying 21%. So this data, last year this was 79%, it's only going up. So the point is, this is why 199A and some of the other legislation around pass-through entities is so important. We asked this question last year, it's not much different this year. And in terms of minority ownership, us women really haven't picked up much. 22%, Asian American 2%, Hispanic 1%, African American 1%. This is a new question. 74% of businesses have been affected by inflation. This is much higher than I expected, actually. I knew that they've been affected, but 74% have been affected by inflation. 58% have been affected by environmental concerns that have impacted their business. And 86% of them have been affected by supply chain issues. That's probably not a surprise, but to me that percent is much higher than I would have expected. And then in terms of the states, you might want to know, are they multi-state? Well, yes. In fact, 25% of them operate in 21 states. 40% of them operate in more than 5 states. So with that, happy to distribute this to anyone that would like to have it. For those that were in the pre-meeting this morning, I think they were in your packets, so you should have it. And so with that, I'd like to now, Karen's departed, so I'm going to move on to the family business. Anyone have any questions or comments on the survey? Any ideas for next year's survey? We're always looking to make it better.
Pat, do you ask about who will own and control in the future? Like how many of them intend to transfer ownership inside of the family?
We do ask some of those questions. I didn't bring them today because I knew my time was limited.
Okay.
But we ask about generational ownership, have they transferred in control, non-control, all of those things. I have that, so happy to share. We have a much bigger deck.
Okay.
And we will share that with all the family business centers. Most of the centers, as you know, ask us to present these survey results, and we do it in that presentation.
As Pat mentioned, my name is Ryan Rogers, Chief Executive Officer of Mary Kay Inc. We are based in the Dallas, Texas area. I'm here to tell you a little bit about our family business and our history. So my grandmother, Mary Kay Ash, was born in Hot Wells, Texas in 1918, so a suburb outside of Houston. Her mother, my great-grandmother, worked nights at a diner while my grandmother, Mary Kay, cared for her ill father. When Mary Kay had questions or concerns about caring for her father, she would call her mother at the diner. My great-grandmother would tell her what to do over the phone, and Mary Kay's mother always ended those conversations with, "You can do it," which became my grandmother's mantra. And despite being a very good student, college was unaffordable to her. She was accepted to Rice University, but scholarships for women really didn't exist at the time. So she went into door-to-door, or what we like to call today direct sales. And she was an excellent salesperson, and later on became a sales trainer and mentor, despite much of her career spent working as a single mom. In 1963, she demanded to be promoted to vice president and named an officer of the company that she was working for at the time, which was a company called Stanley Home Products. After watching many men that she had trained go on to be her boss, when the CEO told her to stop thinking like a woman, she quit her job and set down to write a book about how to run a business in which women could reach their ultimate potential. She quickly realized she didn't have a book, she had a business plan. She only needed something to sell, and figured cosmetics was a great idea because of the opportunity for repeat business and customer loyalty. Using formulas that she purchased from a neighborhood friend whose father was a hide tanner, she founded Beauty by Mary Kay in 1963 with her then 20-year-old son, my father, Richard Rogers. So you see, Mary Kay knew everything she needed to know about sales and marketing, but nothing about finance and operations. The company quickly took off, and by 1968, Mary Kay Inc. sold shares to the public in order to raise capital to build our first manufacturing plant. By 1971, the company opened its first international market, which was Australia, and quickly followed by Canada. Also, we became listed on the New York Stock Exchange under the symbol MKY. After 17 years of being publicly traded, in 1985, Mary Kay's family repurchased all the remaining non-family held public shares and went private via a management-led leveraged buyout, one of the largest in history at the time. Today, Mary Kay is the 7th ranked skincare brand in the world, and we are number 8 in color cosmetics. We still operate as a direct sales organization, selling our products at wholesale to our independent sales force, who then in turn sell the products at retail to their customers. We have almost 2 million, mostly women entrepreneurs in nearly 35 countries, just over 400,000 here in the United States. In addition to our independent sales force, Mary Kay also employs more than 4,000 people around the world, including more than 1,700 in the United States, across 6 facilities, 4 in North Texas and 1 each in Nevada and Pennsylvania. Most of the products we sell around the world are made right here in the USA at our state-of-the-art 453,000 square foot manufacturing facility in Louisville, Texas, which we opened in 2018. Mary Kay has a reputation of being one of the best companies to work for, winning awards year after year for our incredible values and culture. Our mission is to enrich women's lives. We have 4 key values: the go-give spirit, which is to give enthusiastically and with no expectations in return; the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you; make me feel important, which my grandmother used to say, pretend everyone has an invisible sign around their neck that says, make me feel important; and the balanced priorities of faith first, family second, and career third. Our vision is to provide our sales force with an unparalleled opportunity for financial independence, career achievement, and personal fulfillment. And as a family-owned and managed company, we have the flexibility to make decisions for the long haul, as you alluded to, not under the pressure of making quarterly or annual targets. That allows us to maintain great benefits for our employees. And we've hit over 50% of our employees have been with the company for 10 years or more. We have 12 executives on our executive team. 7 of them are women, 5 of them are people of color. So, very diverse organization. We have been in business for 60 years. So since 1963, we're celebrating our 60th anniversary this year. So up in the top bars of most of your survey results. And of course, I am the 3rd generation, but there are members of my family that are older than me that are in the 4th generation. And I'll just end with our 60th, I know we're short on time, we'll end with our 60th anniversary theme for Mary Kay, which is then, now, always. And one little side note that I put down because you mentioned how philanthropic family-owned businesses are. We have our own foundation, the Mary Kay Ash Foundation, which was founded in 1996. We have 2 main causes, which is we fund cancer research for cancers that affect women, and we fund the elimination of domestic violence through mostly shelter grants in all 50 states. And to date, we've given $82 million towards those causes. So I know we're short on time, so I got through that fast, and I'll be around if anybody has more questions later. And just put in perspective, we don't, as a private company, we don't really reveal much of our financial information, but it's a multi-billion-dollar revenue business. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I was going to mention that just so you know who my congressperson is. So I'm in District 24, upstate New York area. Third generation CEO and owner in our family business. The name of our company is Marshall Farms Group, but we're not your typical farm, even though there's farms in the name. So we are based on animal science, and what we say is it's animal science to improve human and animal lives. We have three, and the root of what we do is animal production, but they're not your standard animals. So I'll tell you a little more. We have three operating businesses. One is called Marshall Bioresources. We provide animals, it's a life science business. We support development of new medicines. So we support biotech, pharmaceutical companies, and animal health companies in developing their medicines and making sure they're effective and safe with animals. The other business is Marshall Pet Products. We produce ferrets. I don't know how many of you out there know what a ferret is, but it's related to the weasel. It's a mustelid, and they become fairly popular pets, and we are the largest producer of ferrets, and we provide a full range of product for your pet. So you can find our products on store shelves all over the world. And the third business is this new startup. Following kind of what we do, we produce dogs and train them for bomb detection. And we've got facilities for that in New York State and in Alabama. Overall, we're roughly just over 500 employees, over 300 in New York State now. And so we keep growing. I'll talk a little bit about the history. We started in 1939. My grandfather, he was a 21-year-old college graduate, grew up on a farm, had lots of animals, and was an accounting major in college. He came back to the farm, and his family liked to hunt rabbits in the winter. And back in the day, you could use ferrets to hunt rabbits. You put a ferret down a rabbit hole, scare the rabbit out, and catch the rabbit. So he got his first ferret to help to hunt rabbits with his family. One thing led to another. She came into heat, he bred her, started selling ferrets for hunting. Today, by the way, it's illegal to hunt with ferrets. In the United States, they still do it in Europe quite a bit, especially in England. Pretty soon he had more ferrets than he wanted. He was approached by a company called Letterly Laboratories in Pearl River, New York. They were making canine distemper vaccine for dogs. It's a disease your dog can get. And ferrets happen to get the same disease, and they were looking for ferrets to help develop the vaccine to make sure it's effective and safe. So they contracted with him to breed 100 ferrets the first year, 300 ferrets the second year, and pretty soon there were more companies contacting him. Today, I just mentioned that facility, our first customer, is the facility. It's part of Pfizer Group now, and they just created the COVID vaccine. So they're still making vaccines, mainly for humans now. Back in the day, it was animal health. So he, really small business for many years, kind of a side business. In the early 1960s, my dad joined the company, straight out of college, and he was the fourth employee. It was both my grandparents, and my grandfather's cousin, and my dad. And so really, I consider myself generation 2.5, because it was my dad working alongside my grandfather that built the business to what it is today. I joined the business in 1991, right out of college, and we had 60 to 70 employees. And so I've been in the business now for 31 years. I've been CEO for 19 years, and it's really been gratifying seeing all the growth that we've had, mostly on the bioresource side of the business. So we provide a range of species for that business. I want to talk a little bit about our impact in the community. Well, first of all, we have a lot of family values that helped to found our company from my grandfather. He had a lot of mantras as well. One was, there's always a better way, we just got to figure out how to do it. He would say that all the time. But both he and my grandmother really cared a lot about people, our employees, our customers, our suppliers. And so, for example, we always pay our suppliers on time, and we have a lot of local suppliers we deal with in the community. We have some very generous benefits that they put into place that we continue today. For example, none of our employees have to pay anything for health insurance. There's no premiums. And right now we're valuing that for a family plan of around $18,000 a year. So an employee can start with us at $17 an hour and have $18,000 per year in health insurance at no charge. We also have a pretty generous benefit program. Employees, we set aside 20% of their pay every year towards retirement. And over the years, we've had employees that started at our minimum wage, worked for the company for over 30 years, and literally retire as millionaires. And that was something my grandparents put in place, and we're continuing it today. We were lucky we can still do it. Let's see, jumping to community, we have a big impact in the community. We're one of the larger employers in our little town. It's a rural area in upstate New York. A lot of people don't know New York and know that it's rural in some places, but in our town, there's 4 towns together, probably with a total population of 10,000 people. And over the years, a lot of companies have left our area and New York State. There used to be a manufacturer, there was a prison that closed, there was a food processor that closed. All of them employed over 100 people each. And now we're down to our business, which in our local area is about 280 people. And our employees really impact everything in our community. Not only do we give a lot of money to organizations, but they actually are participating in these groups. They're the firemen. They're involved in all the different groups in the town. And in addition to us, there's other family businesses supporting our community. One is an egg producer. There's another, we're in an apple growing region in New York State. Almost all the apple farmers are family businesses, and some of them are pretty good sized. It's the largest apple growing region on the East Coast, outside Washington State. So, and then with philanthropy in general, one thing we're really proud of is our family founded a park in town. It's a 40-acre park with athletic fields, walking trails, pavilions for picnicking, and it just helps contribute to the quality of life in our community, and we're really glad we can support the community. So, thank you for the time to do this.
But I was asked by one of my local businesses, Payne Golf, which is I used to be mayor of the city of Phoenix. They're a wonderful family-owned business, do a lot of philanthropy. Dawn Grove, their general counsel. Yeah, right. She and I do not agree on politics, but she's a wonderful leader in our community, and I respect her greatly. And so she asked me to participate in this family business caucus. I'm happy to do so. I love the testimonial that I just hear, and I know everyone here has the same story. Not only are you creating so many great jobs and you're the backbone of the American economy, but the commitment to community that I, as a recovery mayor of Phoenix, have seen through the family-owned businesses in my community. So I jokingly told you on the phone, I haven't decided to join the caucus. I'm family caucus curious at this point. But because I was invited to come and check it out, I decided to swing by, and I'm glad I was able to do this. This is a unique day in Congress. We have a short week this week. We're done tomorrow on the Democratic side, which I am a moderate Democrat. We have our retreat, I guess, and the president is speaking at us. We're trying to pack a full week into 3 days, and that's why you see all the hectic people running around like chickens with their heads cut off. But we're trying to be at 2 places at once here in Congress. I will say, both for the success of this group and the success of everything we do in this Congress, it can only be done in a bipartisan way. And I'm not one of the members. One of the reasons why you didn't recognize me is because I don't spend a lot of time on Fox News or MSNBC. Most members are just kind of hardcore working members trying to get the right thing done, stay out of the news for anything negative, don't say bombastic things. Those are the members we're going to rely on to pass good, smart public policy as it relates to this organization, get through the debt limit issue that we're going to be facing, and so many other issues. That we're the ones that kind of get things done around this place. A lot of other members choose to focus in on Twitter followers or whatever. Let them do that. But to really get good policy done, you're going to need members like myself and Cuellar, who I know is another co-chair, and Brad Schneider, all outstanding members on the Democratic side. So look forward to working with you, and it's okay. I have been confused for worse than Brad Schneider. No problem. So look forward to working with you. Thanks for being involved.
Thank you. Yeah, I am the president of Awesome. That's the name of our business officially, which is kind of fun. We started in the heart of Silicon Valley, California's 16th. We'll be meeting Anna Heshu later today. We started 21 years ago, my brother and I, and my dad was involved at the time. And it was kind of a weird time there. The bubble had just burst. Many of you are probably familiar with all of those rumors back in 2001, 2002, right around when we were getting started. So nobody was interested in investing, and we kind of were skeptical about investors in general. So we wrote my recollection is a $20 check to the city of Mountain View for a business license, and we got to work, and that was it. We worked out of our living rooms and slept on each other's couches and worked like dogs to try and get this business off the ground, which we did, clearly. I'm here. My brother and I run it together now, and as of right now, we're several hundred employees scattered around the world, but we have a pretty decent concentration right there in California. The first product we built was a product called SmugMug that Pat mentioned. This was photo sharing. We just wanted somewhere for our own photos to live that could be shared with the world, shared with our family, shared with our friends, and it's grown into something a lot bigger. Professional photographers started getting really interested in using it for their portfolios simply because it was better looking than anything they had access to. So we started building for professional photographers. As we talk about small businesses and family businesses, especially, we support, our estimates are about 100,000 of those in the United States who use our platform to run their primary business. We are taking orders from them, we're printing products. We print our products through a family-run business out of Minnesota called White House Custom Color, and we ship them globally and then help them, we deposit in their bank and give them the tax forms and all that sort of stuff. In addition to professional photographers, there's probably about 1,000 summer camps that use us. If your kid's away at summer camp and you want to see the photos, you get online. If you want to buy those photos, you buy them from us, and we are also helping support the economy of those. And there's a lot of other stories like that on that side. About 5 years ago, we had the opportunity to buy Flickr from the ashes of Yahoo. Many of you are probably at least vaguely familiar of Flickr, might have used it in the early 2000s when it was the largest social network at the time. It's had its ups and downs over the years. It was tremendously mismanaged by Yahoo, as everything was by Yahoo at that time. They sold it to Verizon, of all people. Verizon smooshed it together with AOL. That is not a good business decision. Let me advise against that, any of you thinking about doing that. And in kind of that ashes, we heard that they were going to shut it down and turn it off because they had very short-term thinking. We called them and didn't stop calling until they finally agreed to sell it to us. We now own and operate Flickr as well, which has tens of millions of customers and hundreds of millions of visitors on any given day. It's a huge global scope. We have paying customers in every single country we are allowed to have paying customers in. I can't remember the embargo list. That's what, like 5 or 6 countries around the world. Every single other one we have a paying customer in. We have a truly tremendous reach for such a small family business. You probably are guessing who our main competitors are. The only people we really compete with are Google, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, and Microsoft. They all have photo sharing platforms. It's one of the only places all of them actually compete with each other as well. Some not as good as others. You probably can't name Microsoft's one, you probably can't name Amazon's one, but you're probably very familiar with Instagram and Facebook, Google Photos, and iCloud on those competitors. So we operate in a really weird sort of spot where we're competing with some of the biggest, most successful companies on planet Earth, and we're doing all right at it. So what else can I add? Oh, we talked a little bit about community impact and philanthropy and kind of that sort of thing. We view our community as truly global, right? Our customers are everywhere. We have clusters in a lot of communities, but we really focus on that global community. We're very proud of our super long-term thinking that has allowed us to focus on building our 501c3 independent foundation. We call it the Flickr Foundation, and it is focused on preserving our digital cultural heritage for more than 100 years. We work directly with the Library of Congress, I think right over there that way, Smithsonian right over there that way. The British Library has 1 million historic documents on Flickr that are available to all of us. And so we work with several hundred of these libraries, archives, museums around the world, bringing their cultural heritage, public domain content online to make it freely available to all of humanity across the globe. And we are planning for what happens in 100 years when Flickr, which we almost lost, when those earliest photos that were uploaded to Flickr 19 years ago now enter the public domain. Digital archaeologists in 100 years are going to be really glad that we're undertaking this sort of work, something that's not really available to undertake if you have a short-term business focus, if you're focused on your quarterly results or other sorts of things. We're able to have that very long-term view. So yeah, I don't have anything else to add, so I won't take any more time. I know we're running short, but thank you.
Yeah, Mike Mitchell. I am now Executive Director of the High Center at Elizabethtown College. So I work with almost 200 family businesses now, helping them scale, learn best practices, and we have 28 peer groups where those businesses get together and try to avoid the mistakes I made when I was running my business. But when I started out, I really didn't think about family business. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I wouldn't have described that as family business. So I came from a middle-class family. I really didn't have the money to start my own business. So I got my undergrad at E-Town, small private college. Then went on to get my Wharton MBA. So I spent a lot of money. I took a lot of debt to get the education, but I figured that's where you got to start. It starts with a good education. So I came out of there. I couldn't be an entrepreneur right away. I couldn't have taken on any more debt. So I went to work for H.J. Heinz in Pittsburgh for 7 years in marketing, and went through the corporate route and became a senior marketing manager. I was starting to get kind of comfortable, but I did pay down my debt, and I was in a position now that I could become an entrepreneur. So my father and my brother-in-law and I wrote a business plan to start a chain of, well, it wasn't a chain at the time, we started a discount grocery store. And so it allowed me to move back to Eastern Pennsylvania where all my family was, allowed me to go back in debt again. All that debt I just paid off, I levered up again. And I think we have to remember that. Starting a business is extremely difficult, extremely risky. You have to be kind of crazy because, for the next 10 years, I made less money, significantly less money than I made as an executive at Heinz. And I took a lot of risk and I went into debt. But yet it was still a great thing. You got an idea, it's starting, it's budding. And if you read Jim Collins' Good to Great and look at the flywheel, that's not uncommon. It takes 10 years of hard work before you really start to see the fruits of your labor. But then when it does come, it comes fast. So that's what we saw. Our business went from 15 employees to 400 employees. We were on the Inc. fastest growing companies 4 years in a row. And that's when we started to make some money. But again, we tend to be vilified as those millionaires, let's tax the heck out of them. I was a pass-through. I needed that money. That was my working capital. I mean, that's how I was going to give people better benefits, better pay. That's how I was going to replace the trucks. That's how I was going to pay down my debt. I was still in a lot of debt. So yet we're vilified as we make a lot of money. I needed that money. I had that money all earmarked for many years. It took me using that money just to keep the business growing. And that's the key. In my career, I was there 15 years before we sold the company. We created 400 jobs. That's where the jobs come from. Jobs, I saw a statistic, 80% of job growth comes from privately held businesses. They're the ones taking the risk, building these businesses. So, that was our story. We got to the point where we had grown, we got approached by a private equity firm. I had no kids in the business. It was my brother-in-law and I that owned the business at the time, so we decided to sell. That company had also bought Grocery Outlet Bargain Market. We were a very similar model to that. They had about 450 stores on the West Coast. The Reed family started that business in the 60s, so that was a family business. They created 20,000 jobs creating that business. So we sold, and those 400 jobs are still there and growing as part of that company. And now those 20,000 jobs that the Reed family started are still there. That wouldn't be there if people didn't take that risk. But there's where I think this caucus is important. The next step was I sold the company. I got to pay capital gains. So I paid all those taxes on all that income previously. Then I get slapped with capital gain taxes. And now I worry about estate taxes. So, that same money that I made gets taxed 3 times, and I got to work my way around that. So I'm for taxes. That's fair. I'm for regulations that are fair. But I think this caucus may help us all understand the perspective of an entrepreneur, because we don't want to squash entrepreneurs. And the fact is, it's hard to be an entrepreneur. It takes risk. You got to give up 10 years of income. I'm not going to do that if at the end of the rainbow, I'm taxed aggressively. In fact, I don't know if I do that now, given the way the laws are structured now and the taxes are structured now. I don't know if I go back and be an entrepreneur. And that's what we got to protect, because that is the heart of American capitalism. That's the heart of job growth, and that's the heart of this country. So I hope that this caucus really gives us a voice to just listen to some of these entrepreneurs, listen to some of these family businesses. So I really look forward to working with you all to make that happen. Thanks for your time.
I have a question, Pat. Because this is my first event, I wonder if you would mind introducing yourself a little bit about how this was created and what drove you to do that.
I'm smiling at Jeff Cook McCormick because he did this job for a while. I'll be happy to do that. It's kind of a long history, so I'll go fast. I actually had my own business. I was a multi-family office owner. I started in the family office industry working for the Marshall Field family of Chicago. I worked for Ted Field, Marshall's brother, and I went off before family office was a thing, and I formed my own multi-family office. I grew that business over the course of 20 plus years, and during that time is when I formed Policy and Taxation Group in 1995, because I really saw what was happening to families and family businesses, and I had a client die at the young age of 38, and I decided the estate tax was something that was just really, really bad for the country and bad for families. So I started coming back here, and I would say, I'm here to talk about the estate tax, and members of Congress would say, that's a state issue, go back to your state. And I'd go, no, estate tax? It was that, people didn't even know, most people didn't even understand it was an estate tax. So we've come a long way on that. And so I formed Policy and Taxation Group in 1995. Ran it, and then I turned it over to Jeff for 6 years. Policy and Taxation Group still exists today. It's a 501c4. Its mission and purpose is to promote successful families in this country and to work on tax and economic issues to keep them successful. And then about 3 years ago, the board of Family Enterprise USA came to me and asked me if I would take over this organization, which I had heard of, which was founded in 2007 by the Roundhurst family. And I was pleased to do so because you can see the synergy between the organizations. They both work on tax and economic issues that affect families, and I believe very strongly in families. And I really don't think that members of Congress understand successful families in this business. You know, and as Mike mentioned, the risks they take. All of you mentioned that, the risks that they really have to take in this country to be successful, and how different they are from non-family businesses. So I feel privileged and honored to be able to do that. And I've been coming back to DC since 1995, so I should know what members of Congress look like.
You're always visiting us.
Yeah. And let me say, and I will get this correct, so I was working in the Senate starting in 1995, leading up to 2001, and Pat Soldano was the driving force behind the repeal of the estate tax in Bush's 2001 extra tax bill. She did all the work behind the scenes, recruited, I worked for the Democrats at the time, and she recruited Democrats to support that, and we had a bipartisan bill that was designed to phase out the estate tax. And we all know the story didn't end well, but she demonstrated early on in her public policy endeavors her keen sense of strategy, dogged determination to figure out how to get things done in Washington.
Thanks, Russ. So it was wonderful when Russ came out into the private sector, so we could work together again. So thank you all for joining. Any last comments? Dave, you have a comment?
Pat, just a philosophical question, because I'm relatively new to this as well. As you know, we've only known each other less than a year now. But what I've noticed, and in my life, I deal in medical office building development. But the thing that is the constant theme, whether it's in California or coming back to Washington or whatever, is all of these regulations that just pick at you in ways that no one has ever asked me, and I just retired after 34 years. Nobody said in any of these institutions, even in the planning department in California, how can we help make you successful? Versus here's what you have to do. And you know, for all the conversations around risk and loans and so forth, absolutely on point. What I don't get is it the colleges who are not teaching it? Is it the institutions that are not teaching it? But it seems like in any sector to make a difference in your sphere of influence, which is what we were talking about earlier, and I love some of the stories, where does the fundamental messaging break down that they aren't here to say, how can we help you, versus us grinding with them? And I've not been able to understand that, and over your years, I don't know whether you understand it, but is there something, whether it's Democrat or Republican, that we just can't seem to get to that language?
Well, I think it's really a matter of family businesses are busy running their businesses. So typically they're not talking to their legislators. You know, they start small and they don't have the time. They don't even know that legislation is something that's going to impact them and that they need to worry about. So that's why most of our families tend to be, you know, multi-generational, third and fourth generation. Because at that level, I think that they really understand, you know, how legislation can impact them and how important advocacy is. I'm a big advocate of advocacy, no matter what it is. I mean, I advocate for the Alzheimer's Association. But most people don't understand how it works or how effective it is. And so I really think that's why I'm so excited about this caucus, is I think that it is so important for members of Congress to hear from you all, to know what your businesses do and who you are and how you contribute to the community, because they don't know it. They really don't know it. And now they're learning about it. We meet with them and they're like, oh. And you heard Representative Claudia Tenney say, I'm so happy that this caucus is being formed. It should have been formed a long time ago. And that's true. So I think that's what it takes. I mean, that's what we've learned on the estate tax and other tax policies. You just got to keep talking about it and talking about it.
If I could just add another point, just to kind of get from the perspective you asked of the institutions. I am a reformed institutionalist. I worked on the Hill for about 14 years. I think something to keep in mind, certainly it's different at the state and local level. I think at the federal level, just to give you context, it's very reactionary. I think a lot of times members, staff, the body as a whole is kind of crashing from one crisis to the next. And unfortunately, it makes it hard to have that intentionality to reach back down into the district and into your home state and say, how can I help you? But I think, you know, to Pat's point, that's the beauty of a caucus like this. One of our ideas is for caucus members to work with FEUSA to develop advisory boards within their district, within their home state, so that they don't have to kind of muddle through. They have a kitchen cabinet readily available to say, hey, I just want to check in with you. You're the canary in the coal mine. Give me some feedback as to how things are going. Or let me give you an update of this big regulatory bill that's coming down the pipeline, or tax incentives that are coming up for reauthorization. I want to understand how this is going to impact you, and that's the type of connectivity this caucus can help create. And it's really I just wanted to give that context in terms of how we're operating.
Thank you.
Yeah, and all this information is on our website. We do plan to come out with an annual report at some point, hopefully at the end of the year or early next year, around family businesses. So I don't want to keep you any longer. Really appreciate everybody's attention. Thank you all for coming to testify and tell your stories about your family businesses. It is so very, very important. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.